15630 and 15620 Birmingham Highway. Mr. Jeff Riddick. A flat roof house. Early 1960s. Jeff, I'm thinking we need to save the sliding door above the garage door.
We could take it to your house if you guys do.
Yeah, clear that with my wife. What are you putting back?
There'll be 3 single-family homes.
Okay. How many acres are
Salvage here.
Nothing to salvage, you're right. You have any questions, Laura or Steve? Or? I'd like to make a motion to approve 15630 and 15620 Birmingham Highway to approve the demolition.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Sir Jeff, you're good to go. The next is 1660 Birmingham Road. Mr. Cook's not here yet, so we'll move this one over. Is that all right with everyone?
Sure.
On the side.
Okay, we're turning that down.
Next, we have to go to the final reviews for Bravern. Is Michelle here?
She's on vacation.
Oh. She's prettier than you are.
I knew you were gonna say that.
She could get a lot further. We're used to her.
I know.
Yeah, I do.
You know,
Yeah, just make sure David address.
Phil White, and these are the townhomes from 2111 to 2117. McFarland Lane should be the last townhomes in the subdivision. We've got one more pad that's platted, but as I understand, there's going to be some changes in the road, and that'll eventually become commercial.
Okay. Bob, do you have questions?
Yeah, just for the record, Marty, this is coming off, it's encroaching pretty close to the proposed road, and the city hasn't actually acquired the property. They're in the process of doing that right now. So just for the record, I wanted to see if we could document that if, in fact, that they put the 4 units in, that they're not going to encroach on any other proposed right-of-way taking, or make sure that they state that they have an understanding that we might do some grading or earthwork a little bit beyond that because of the grade change. So I just want to make sure that the applicant knows that there is the road and acknowledges that for the record, because I was thinking that 4 would be awfully tight to the proposed. Michelle mentioned maybe they would just go to 3, so I don't know.
She didn't inform me of 3.
Have you talked with anybody at Public Works?
We've met with them several times.
Yeah, I mean, is it encroaching?
We don't know the final layout of the road yet, but they wanted to go ahead with the review. So the director.
They want to go forward with this review?
We can just.
How, let me ask you a question. How soon after this review are you going to start construction?
We'll start, we'll submit permits and start
soon?
when the permits are, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it only makes sense to complete the project because you leave 4 buildings hanging out there.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds a little kind of limbo. I mean, how's the man going to know what to build unless?
Well, we've been working on this for like a year.
But has the right of way been defined?
They haven't finalized the location, the exact location of the road yet.
I can't imagine with a 4-building pad already platted that wouldn't be adequate space. Do you want to see what the plat looks like? Would that be?
Does it have the road alignment?
It doesn't have the road alignment, but there's a whole lot of space there. I've got a copy if you want me to.
Just wanted to make sure that, you know, they're still in the acquisition, cities acquiring the property, and I just want to make sure that all parties are acknowledging that this board is saying, okay, maybe to the design, but it's still subject to
Location of the road.
location of the road and the city, and that everybody understands that there might be some earthwork or excavation or something that occurs, and that the dwellings might end up being close to that road, so I just wanna, I don't want it to become a hardship later for the city in the negotiations to say, oh, well, you formally approved it, and now, you know, you can't put the road there, or.
What would happen if he gets a permit to build this building and the road is all of a sudden,
We're not gonna issue any permits until everything is
Okay.
settled with the road.
got it,
So I guess your
got it,
approval
got it.
would be subject to the acknowledgement that
I think,
we still have to wait to
Yeah.
see what that road does.
yeah, are you, I don't know if have you had a chance to discuss this or?
I didn't realize that this was at all issue there. I mean, like I said, there's plenty of, I can't imagine that the road changes would be so material as to encroach all the way over to where we're planning to build this building. I guess that's where I'm a little confused, but,
They're pretty substantial. I mean, it's a brand-new road, so realigned.
You know if it's close to these lots?
It's close.
It's close.
And Carter brought up the fact that, you know, with the extra excavation work, because of
Yeah.
the grade change, there's a big grade change there.
Yeah.
It's probably 10 feet, so with that grade change, they might end up coming over even closer.
Okay.
But the,
So,
Just want to make sure that when we approve it subject to that.
That-
So that
yeah.
we don't come back later in the negotiations and say that we kind of approved it.
got it, okay.
but
So-
Bob, we're not making a statement one way or the other about the road, because really, I don't know how ours is the building itself, and whatever the road encroachments or the road setbacks or all those things might or might not be, is really gonna be dependent upon them issuing the building permit to begin with, and that's where it's really will come to play, not necessarily us, because the design of the building itself, we can't really attest or make a statement based on something that may or may not happen that has or has not been approved or bought, because they still own the lot, and they got a plat. You see what I'm saying?
And you guys have, it's been going on for a year now, right? So,
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody.
I mean, I'm not trying to,
well,
I'm
I
not
think-
stopping anything, I was just making sure everybody, including the applicant,
There's
is
a,
aware that
there's a pending condemnation.
there's a pending condemnation
Okay.
by the city.
I
And
think,
I would suggest the city condemn it before they put a building on it.
And,
so, yeah, I mean, that would be probably the prudent thing.
So,
So if it's the first you're hearing of it,
well, I mean, again, Michelle's been the one that's been handling it, but
She
she
may-
didn't warn me, so.
yeah, she may be aware of,
And they may already have established what the parameters are, because I can't imagine her wanting me to go forward without that.
I think this is just more or less just an acknowledgement that this is not a formal approval of you moving forward until that's resolved. Yeah.
That's understood. I mean, this is a design approval.
right.
Yeah, I understand that.
Thank you.
in light of what you just said, do you think we'd be better off if we just tabled this to the next meeting so that it would give the city time to know what they want to do, or be a little more directive to us as to?
I think they wanted, when I spoke to Kathy, she said she was trying to get it in. She was okay with getting it through so we don't lose time. And we're certainly not trying to, slow them down in any way. But we just want an acknowledgement that, yes, in fact, that's still being worked out. And, we just don't want to show that the city's formally approving this as it's going without that being.
Right.
Without that being disclosed.
So our motion to approve the design and review of this would be, we'd have to make the motion subject to the pending city alignment of the new road, which is going to be called,
Marty's place?
well, I mean, I'm just trying to grapple with how do you make a motion and how do you approve or disapprove based on something that may or may not happen with a road that everybody's up in the air about, so.
How about if you approve it with our acknowledgement that if the road creates a change in what we have to build, then we're willing to resubmit for the design review?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Does that make sense?
Yep,
Does that make
Yeah,
sense? That would be
yeah,
good.
that'd be better.
Thank you. I'll take that.
Okay, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, I'm just trying to make sure I got it. If we approve it, even subject to that,
Yeah.
we push this one step closer to the actual building. And so staff has recommended that we go ahead and approve this, look at it only based on the design of the building, not the placement of the building at this point, is that right?
Would that be okay, Angela?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion we would make is that we'll approve the design of the structure, but we don't know where the layout of the building will actually be because of the road, and that is yet to be determined.
That sounds fair?
Okay, anybody want to make that? I will make a motion to approve the design of the buildings, subject to the
Do we have any public comment?
oh, you know, we hadn't asked for public comments. Anybody want to? I'm sorry. Are we covering it? Okay. Because I'm trying to get my head around how I'm going to make the motion, but
Or do you have any questions?
do you have any more?
No,
I'm sorry.
no, but I think you also have to add in your motion that they will, if they're impeded, then they will resubmit the design to the design review board.
Okay. All right. My motion is to approve the design of the buildings, subject to the location of the road and the appropriate setbacks. Should the road change or impede in any way, you agree to come back to the design review board based on the relocation of the building pads.
Yeah.
So I got it?
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Did Jeff Cook come in? Nope. Okay. Next is courtesy reviews. The first one is V13-005, which is 244 Legends Trail to Highlands, Sharp Residential, I think Farrell Middleton. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are y'all doing?
Good.
Am I supposed to speak?
Yeah.
Okay, certainly. All right, I wasn't sure.
Well, I know that this one is
Y'all done all the talking so far, for the most part, so.
asking for the setback to change.
That is correct, yes.
Are you trying to align it with the house next door?
That's part of the issue, the major issue we have on this particular lot, though. It's in the Highlands neighborhood on Premium Road. Lot number 53 is, to say it mildly, a very challenging lot. It's
Okay.
basically a big hole. And what we were trying to do is decrease the subwall scenario we're going to have on the lot. And along with that, obviously, we decrease the cost, but we make the house a little more marketable, make the lot a little more usable and warranty-friendly from a homeowner standpoint. The house next door, lot number 52, I think you might have a copy of a combo plot plan there, possibly in the package, is that right?
I do.
Yes. Lot 52, that particular property line was already set at a 40-foot building line per the plat. It's a corner lot, and the 60-foot setback of the neighborhood is actually on a small little side street, or actually the main road, but it's a very small leg of that property. So that one is at 40 feet already. What we're looking to do is put this one at 40 feet as well. So again, there's no streetscape issue with regard to one house sitting much further in front than the other one. But basically, we're trying to make it a much more marketable home site. It's just a big darn hole. So
Is the roadway itself the highest point and then just goes down from there, or?
That is, well, there's a shoulder that's built, of course, you know, 10 or 15 feet, but beyond that, it drops off pretty much at a one-to-one slope. And we're probably gonna end up maybe with a 12-foot subwall on it, even at 40 feet. If we go back further than that, that subwall could possibly get to 15 to 18 feet in height at the back corner. So,
Tough lot.
yes, sir, it is. Yes, it is. But we've been very successful up there. The houses have sold quite well. And on the other side of Lot 52, as you can tell, is a detention pond area. So there's no adjoining lot on what would be the left-hand side facing the house from the street. So there's not any streetscape issue there either, in our opinion.
Generally, whenever we bring houses closer to the street, if we can see if the applicant's willing to put a porch on the front of the house, because it just makes it a little bit more friendly when you're driving by and you see a porch. It kind of breaks that harsh wall of the house.
Carol, have y'all got a design for this house yet?
Yes, it's going to be one of our more popular floor plans. It's a High Croft 2. And actually, it does have a porch on it. You might be able to see that the lightly dashed lines there at that front left corner. And it will be a front entry garage as well. Most of the lots in there are side entry, but a side entry garage on this lot is, number one, terribly expensive. Number two, we would end up with a very poor maintenance situation for whoever ended up buying this house. It's just not a good idea.
Can I ask what the dimensions of the porch would be?
Let's see.
It looks like it's just a covering.
Looks as though it's a covered porch again. If you start from the right-hand side of the house, three-car garage, going to be three-car front entry. Then you have your living room, which is probably 12 feet, and then the full porch width is probably, I'm going to say maybe 18 feet in width, and then going back, turning a leg, probably about 15 feet or so in depth.
Can we just mandate that the minimum dimension on the porch at any point would be 8 feet? So it becomes a usable porch. The minimum depth at any point.
Because I'd imagine the front door is right there at the
Yeah,
corner
so
there.
as long as that's an 8-foot setback on that little leg, it becomes a usable porch.
Hard to see without actually seeing a picture of the house or a plan for the house itself, for what he wants to do,
Yeah.
to get.
Okay.
You know,
Are you talking right there, that point adjacent to,
I'm saying that.
I'm assuming your front door is,
the front door is in the angle portion? Yes,
Yeah.
it's an angled front door.
Oh, okay, okay.
I see it.
Right, I see.
He's going in right there.
Stick out a little bit. We could probably do something along those lines. Might have to make the house a little bit bigger. We could get that to work
You
out.
can get it
That's
to
a
work.
solution.
So
Absolutely.
Marty, you can get it to work and make it, because at 8 feet, it would become a usable porch. So then at least it becomes a kind of a porch where you can put some furniture on and everything, and it softens the setback
So you're talking about the minimum depth of the porch would be 8 feet from,
at any point.
at any point.
Yeah.
We could make that work.
You can make that work?
Yes, sir.
Is that okay?
On me. Anybody have any questions?
Right.
Cool. Is any public comment? Then Farrell, I think that we're good to go.
Well, thank you very much. I do appreciate your help.
Thank you so very much.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll add that as a comment when it goes to the
So
variance.
it's just,
So we'll add it as a comment when it goes to the variance.
Okay.
Right? So
Pardon?
the variance board will see
That'll be a
those
condition
comments.
of the variance.
It's a condition of the variance.
Yes. And actually, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and get something drawn up and get an elevation to
And
bring
show
to
it to
that
the
meeting,
variance
just to
board,
make sure
yeah,
that they can
see
see
what
that. So,
Thank you.
That'd be really helpful, because that, obviously,
absolutely.
everything's dimensional and look, and it's hard to sit there and say,
It's very hard on a large lot, it's very hard to scales get things.
Yeah.
You're absolutely correct. So,
Good luck.
very good.
Thank
Thank you very
you.
much. Appreciate your help.
okay, the next review is,
Did you do a yellow card?
I did.
Yeah, I give it. He gave it to me.
Yep, thank you.
We got it. Sorry.
the next one we have is 5140 Windward, Navy Federal Credit Union, Mr. Brian Murphy.
I'm Tom Millard, I'm with General Construction, and my client's not here yet, so if you guys can pass it over, I'll come back to this.
Okay, we'll come back to you. The next one is 13800 Highway 9 North, Bethany Village.
My name's Earl Raymond. I'm with the Nice Companies out of Douglasville, Georgia. We're the sign contractor. I'm here on behalf of Retail Planning Corporation and Becky Coppels. What they're asking for at the existing Bethany Village main ID sign, there is an existing cabinet in there that needs some work and upgrades to it, and they were inquiring as to increasing the size of that cabinet. Two reasons for that. One is, as it sits now, it's not large enough to accommodate tenant panels for all the tenants of the shopping center. The second reason is the viewability. You don't see the storefronts from the highway because of all the trees, the Bradford pears and stuff along the road there. So that main ID sign is really their only identifying mark that they have as traffic passes by. With the increase of the size of that cabinet, we would not be increasing the overall footprint of the side. We would just kind of be filling in the gap between the bottom cabinet and the upper cabinet.
How many square feet are allowed in a sign?
I believe that was 48.
And one that, for that type of use, 48 square feet,
And how many is this?
66.
And if we were to, say we're fine with it, because the design-wise I don't really care about, do we give up anything in terms of future sign issues by agreeing to a larger sign?
No, I mean, that shopping center would be allowed to have that 66 square foot sign from here on out. It stays with the property, so.
I know I'm talking about other people coming and say, well, you allowed them to have a 66 square foot
Right.
sign.
Well, I mean, it could come up.
Personally, I think that going all the way to the top on my own personal thought, not giving any credence to our sign ordinance one way or the other. Personally, I think it looks better, but it could be because it's brighter when it's been printed out. I'm assuming that it's completely lit, all the panels, is that correct?
Yeah, it's an interior illuminated cabinet.
Okay.
Which is what it is now.
Yeah.
So we're going from 8 to 12. Public's getting a little bit bigger sign.
Monty, what do you think about the sign material? It's kind of all,
Is this just gonna be vinyl over the plastic?
The panels will be acrylic with vinyl. That's
But it's gonna be a
typical
vinyl
use.
just placed on top of the acrylic, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like a bubble sign with, you know what I'm talking about, where the thermoform signs and,
Oh, panform?
there you go, yeah.
No, sir.
I don't know the right words.
Yeah, typically you do a panform sign when you have a larger acrylic panel that gives it a little more rigidity and doesn't allow the wind to suck it out of the cabinet.
All right. Technical question.
Okay?
The vinyl that you use on these signs?
Yes, sir.
Because one of the things I don't like about signs is when you go to see a sign that's 3, 4, 5 years old, then all of a sudden the vinyl has faded and starts cracking
Cracked and peeled. I know
and
exactly what
peeling,
you're talking
and so
about.
the sign looks like crap. Now, the sign looks great when it's new.
That's the quality of the vinyl you use, and we only use 3M high performance vinyl. It's 8 to 10 year lifespan.
Okay. When we do this, when we give our thoughts on this, does that mean that, can we say that we would like to have, are we giving it to the Bethany Village LLC, or is it, you understand what I'm
Yeah.
asking? Can we make it be, or make the recommendation that if we agree to the 66 square feet, they agree that should the sign become dysfunctional in the quality of the vinyl, that they would in fact maintain the sign and fix it?
Well, the owner is supposed to do that anyway. We are, that's already in the ordinance. We're responsible for maintenance, but you can make that a condition if you want.
Maintenance of the sign would be my big thing.
That's what brought this issue to light, is actually the cabinet needs some repair work done to it.
Yeah.
And it was suggested to be replaced instead of fixed.
Yeah,
Let him do that.
Laura just brought something that's really, the rest of the sign itself looks really dated.
Part of the work, our contract with the client is to paint the upper existing cabinet where it says Bethany Village, and
What can we do to dress that up to make it look
Yeah,
better?
that looks funky with the,
Because obviously the print type is different than the print type on the sign
Are you talking about
itself.
the copy itself?
Yeah, and so what I guess I'm looking for is some kind of conformity with print, and so it all looks like the signs together and not just, the font's not the
Yeah, I mean,
same.
the fonts, the issue you have is all these fonts are gonna be different because they're trademarked, so.
Yeah,
maybe-
Publix.
Maybe you match the Publix font because that's the biggest one and that gives you some.
You understand where I'm
Yeah,
going
no, I
with
know
this,
what you're
right?
saying. You want the Publix font and the Bethany Village font to have some consistency.
Yes.
That would be a question I would just have to take back to my client and see if the ownership would be willing to change Bethany Village to that same font. And of course, it would be more cost to them because we would actually be replacing that face panel on that upper cabinet too.
Because really what they're asking us to do is increase by, what, 20% or more,
Yeah.
the size of the sign. So if we're gonna increase the size of the sign, if we're gonna ask for them for something, now's the time for us to ask for them to clean the sign they've got up, make the sign look a little more modern.
I just, yeah, if you're gonna do that, I think I'd do, get rid of this funky stuff and just make this all one color.
Yeah, I mean, they've got, do you know how that sign's constructed on the top?
It's an aluminum cabinet.
That's an all aluminum cabinet at the
Yeah,
top?
the copy is actually acrylic. It's routed in back, so the copy is routed out of the aluminum face, and it's got a sheet of acrylic behind it to allow the
Okay,
light
it's
to
lit.
through. Yeah.
Are the raised molding, is that the panel, is that a panel or is that a piece
No,
of
it's just
molding?
bar stock aluminum. It's just flat aluminum, like molding.
Okay.
It would look better, I think, if it was all one color, not two-tone.
Yeah, that green is funky looking.
Yeah,
It just,
it's probably because it's old, right?
yeah, exactly.
We're just trying to bring it into a more modern looking sign that
I
is,
understand.
and so if we were to give our approval, I would, speaking for myself, it would be subject to the whole sign being improved, not just
Not just
the
hidden
insert cabinet.
Yeah.
So this is just a review. Does anybody else have any
First
comments?
review, yeah. No, I agree. I think if you're gonna add the additional, you need to update the,
Yes.
upgrade it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like the thing when you remodel a house.
Yeah.
If you go over 30% of the value of that house, you then have to bring everything back up to code. So you're affecting most of the majority of this signage. So now's the time to
Yes.
clean it up, make it look good, and
Can I ask you, Mr.
Yes,
Chair,
sir.
Do you want the applicant to come back and show
I
the
do.
board?
Okay.
Otherwise, he's gonna progress into the variance.
no. What I would be asking you to do
Do it
is to meet with your owners, tell them that we want a more updated sign as a
Okay.
whole if we're going to increase the size of it.
Okay.
Well, and-
So, let me, I just got, so this is a backlit, so you kind of illuminates and then,
You talking about the upper cabinet?
no,
The
no,
entire sign?
the entire sign.
Yes.
Is that the way it is now, or is it front lit?
No, it's internally illuminated. It's got light
The
bulbs
existing
inside.
lights, the existing, sign right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't know.
It doesn't look like that.
Yeah, it is.
It's lit because I've seen it at
It's,
night.
Yeah,
I don't know if it, as it sits right now, if the light bulbs are burned out or what, but it is internally illuminated cabinet.
And when you go back to this, are you replacing the electrics on the inside of the sign as well?
Well, yeah, we're replacing that entire tenant cabinet in the middle.
Are you going to LED lights, or are you going back, are you going to LED on the inside, or?
As it stands now, it's going back to fluorescence.
Is this, Angela, this is part of, any improvement district, Highway 9 improvement district?
Part of the Highway 9 overlay and form-based
Does
code.
it? Okay. I mean, how does this fit into that?
Form-based code really doesn't have any signage requirements. The overlay, like one thing that they would have to do now would be to put a monument base, brick or stone, like across the width, the bottom, the entire bottom width of the sign.
Yeah.
Because right now they're just kind of columns. But beyond that, that's about it.
It would be nice to kind of start matching with the new sign that's across the street. You've got the Shell and then Starbucks, and how to get some consistency around the signs so that they're all starting to look similar. I mean, I think if we're going form-based code, isn't that the objective? Okay.
I don't know if you want to do this, but one thing I think would look good is, to me, it looks top-heavy.
Yeah.
How the top sticks out, to cover the brick with stone, wrap all of those columns with stone, to make it go up underneath of the canopy on the top, so it makes it look like it's all perfectly balanced, I guess. It just looks top-heavy now. I don't know if they'd want to wrap those with stone, but it would look, I think it would look a lot better
No, I
as
understand what you're
stone
saying.
instead of brick.
Because that top cabinet is wider than the rest of the sign.
Yeah.
Only thing about that, the material is supposed to match the building, and I think the building's brick,
Yeah,
Okay.
it is.
so.
I see.
And I think adding a base would help with that.
Just the base.
So we'll do a new design for the entire sign, not just the tenant cabinet, and come back and revisit it.
Okay, that's the,
I think you've got the picture of what we're looking
Yes,
for
sir.
as a updated
what,
sign in its entirety.
has anybody thought about a front lit sign?
I'm sorry?
Instead of the backlit sign, the illumination, is it? I'm just throwing it
Exterior
out
lighting.
there, yeah, I'm just,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I
Front
think, I mean, personally, it's probably you know, instead of it backlit, it's front lit. I mean, you can do a,
He's just talking about
You're talking about having
spotlighting on.
floodlights out in front of it, shining up on it.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's an option. I mean, I'm throwing it out there as, you know, instead of a illuminated backlit sign,
Yeah.
which, you know, creates, you know, I mean, I think Highway 9 is on its way, you know, to, you know, a little bit more, you've been there,
Yeah.
you know, to where it's not, you know, kind of maybe getting away from backlit signs, getting more into front lit signs with, you know, either it be from the top or from the base. Throwing it out there. I'll Hilton Head. You don't see that. I mean, you just don't see illuminated signs. You see, they're all lit
Right.
from the front.
So what you're looking for is a softer appeal to the light
Yeah.
itself instead of a stark contrast.
I mean, that's certainly probably something you guys probably haven't discussed because you know, you're here and your client's not.
Yeah. And all this, I'll take back to him and see what's.
You see what I'm saying? I mean, as far as, you know, I mean, and that's kind of maybe the look we want to maybe consider for some of these major thoroughfares like Highway 9.
Well, the Highway 9 overlay with the new, well, not new, but current requirements are for externally illuminated.
They are.
I just don't know how that would work on something this big.
Oh, it'd work fine.
Yeah.
It
It
also
would
gives you
absolutely.
more options as to the face.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't have to have that
And it kind of brings in a little bit of,
You can have wood
yeah,
or some
Yeah.
other type
Of,
of sign
Yeah.
that looks a little bit more natural.
right. And I'm sure up at the Birminghams, they don't have backlit signs on their
They're
ordinance.
not allowed there.
No. It's more front lit. And so, you know, I mean, if this is the only option, you know, I'm certainly not going to stand in the way of, you know, promoting business here.
It's actually probably less expensive to do a front lit sign than it is a backlit.
And I think it's.
Yeah, I think the cost will weigh out.
Yeah.
In the cost of materials and
it allows
components for the
them to have
cabinet
different
versus.
materials rather than
Absolutely.
vinyl, which of course the
I
board
mean,
is, worried
You know, I mean,
about.
it could be, I mean, you could do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Throw some shake in here, you know, and some landscaping that would hide the floodlights that shine up on it. So, if that's a consideration, you know, I mean, that your client would look at something like that, I think, you know, for coming in, and this seems kind of be the demarcation. You know, you go further north, and it gets into Forsyth County.
Yeah.
And then all hell breaks loose. I mean, I used to live up there, and,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, you hit McFarland Road, and it's, you know, it's like Buford Highway.
Yeah. No, I understand and appreciate that.
You know, and-
We'll do a complete redesign.
And
take
so,
your
I mean, I
recommendations.
I almost kind of consider, you know, right there at this Publix, and my wife shops there every week, is kind of like you go further south as you're approaching,
You get more architectural character.
pass through Milton and into Alpharetta. It's,
Well-
It's kind of where it starts.
But the form code we're looking at for north of Bethany Bend is gonna be more crabapple looking. That's what
it's
they
kinda-
want.
yeah.
So, yeah.
So.
It would look nicer with it nice.
Oh, yeah.
Natural.
If you really kind of think about it, I mean, you're in the sign business, and I'm sure when you go on vacation, you know, I'm in the development business, and I look at land, and you probably look at signs,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And, you know, you go to a Hilton Head,
No, I understand.
it's front lit.
I prefer to do that type of product for them. This is, originated, budget perspective,
Yeah.
just replace the tenant cabinet.
I mean, this shopping center, I think, I mean, there's a lot of great things kind of coming
Yeah.
and around there, and there's some new restaurants in there that are upscale. I think it could use a little bit of that upscale.
Yeah, we can do it.
Awesome.
All right, gentlemen, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you building good signs in our city. Okay, our Navy Federal guy, is he here?
Yeah.
You're the one? Step on up.
I mean, you can light it from the top or bottom. Both. Oh, yeah. Oh, so much better.
So is it off of? Yes. It's over the top to ask you to make your sign be red instead of blue? Just messing with you, man.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Sammy. I actually represent the owner from Navy Federal Credit Union, and this is our contractor that's building our current site under construction right off Windward Parkway.
So your sign's gonna be constructed in accordance with the other signs that are on the general area?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Angela and Bob, does this signage meet all the requirements that are required based on the sign ordinances?
I thought he was putting more signs.
Well, material-wise, it does, but he's here because he's asking for a variance. So we'll go down the list, like the ground sign, as I just said, we now require ground signs to be externally illuminated, and they want an internally illuminated sign to match the other signs that are along Deerfield Parkway, well, Windward and Highway 9. They are currently allowed to have 2 wall signs, and they want 3 wall signs on the main building, I believe. Well, or did we take that down to 2?
Yeah, it'll be 3 on the building.
3 wall
Yes, ma'am.
signs, Navy Federal, and then they want the LED signs over the drive-through. Currently, we don't allow LED signs like that, so we're considering those 3 additional wall signs for a total of 6. And then they want how many was it? 4 directional signs, and we don't have a specific allowance for directional signs, so we're calling them non-monument ground signs, and they want those for wayfinding on the site.
Okay.
And if I may, I would like to talk to each item that Angela just described to kind of give some background about why we would like your consideration for these, if possible. The Navy Federal is a lot different than your typical financial institution. We don't have a financial institution every few blocks or every quarter mile like your typical big banks do. We're more spread out, where one central credit union will serve a 20-mile demographic, and we have about 10,000 members within a 15-mile demographic of this new location. And we feel that visibility will be very important for members driving down busy Route 9 and busy Windward Parkway. And the way the building is positioned on the lot right now,
It's downhill.
Yeah, you're right on the corner of Highway 9 and Windward.
It's downhill from
That's a
9.
pretty visible spot.
Yeah.
yeah, it's visible, yes, if you have a sign. But if any member were to be driving by The way we designed the building, as you can see with these dormers on each side, there's an entrance on the back side where the Walmart is located. This side right here is facing Windward Parkway, which is very busy. So if you drive down that road and there's not a sign there, there's no way to identify that we are Navy Federal to our members.
Are you closing Crab Apple?
I'm sorry? Yes, we are. We're going to relocate that office to this office based off the growth of our membership over the last 5 years.
Okay. You know, my biggest questions, I understand your need for the signs that you've asked for. My biggest questions are, how does it affect us for future people coming to ask for signs? And if we give in on this, how do we say yes to you, say no to someone else? I agree with Steve on the face illumination versus backlit illumination. As far as the LED signs go for the drive-throughs, my personal opinion is that opens us up to a can of worms of LED signs all over the city, and who may ask for them and how they would challenge our ordinance that doesn't allow for these signs that can essentially say anything.
Yeah, well, we're hoping, our drive-through lanes are going to be very, very, very busy, and if we're not able to demonstrate whether we're open or closed electronically, we feel like it's going to strongly hinder our business.
Bob, how do other banks do it? I mean, I know my
What are
bank
your
has a
hours?
light.
Our hours are typically 9 to 6:30 p.m., Monday through Friday, and then Saturday 9 to 2 p.m.
So during the day?
Yes. And we can have them completely off after we close. They will be completely off after.
So it would be light out when you're open?
Correct, yeah, they're clearly visible during the daytime,
Okay,
yes.
so why would you need a backlit sign for people to?
So members know if our lane is open or closed, because even though we have 3 or 4 lanes, every lane's not always open.
I'm talking about the big sign out front.
Oh, you talking about the monument sign?
Yeah.
Yeah, the monument sign would only be lit at nighttime. And that would be just to be consistent with the other monument signs that are around.
What are in Alpharetta?
Yeah, there's 4 other monument signs within a 3-block radius that all.
The rest of Deerfield, going down in Milton, on the windward side, going down Milton, are all internally illuminated.
So that's what it looks like.
Yeah, that's old code. It's the old code.
Yeah, I think we're changing, guys.
Yeah.
We're going.
New code.
Transitioning.
Yeah.
Be with us.
And to be honest with you, out of everything we're asking for here, the illuminated monument sign is the least important out of all the others. If the uplighting would be allowed for that sign. Branding is very important to us, and
Well, I don't think there's any question anybody's gonna know what that is, because I know what it was before it even got a sign on it.
But I think my question still is, if you're open during the day, why would you need a backlit sign?
on the building itself, or the monument sign, I'm sorry.
Both.
Yeah, the illuminated backlit sign would only be lit at nighttime, except for the drive-through lanes, which would be always positioned to say open or close for members that are using it.
I'm not trying to change focus, but on your LED signs,
Yes.
are they going to be designated to say only specific things like open, closed, ATM only?
Absolutely. There's
So
no
there
other,
would be no other computerized messaging that could go on these signs?
that's a great question.
Right.
Now, there's no other capability for those units, sir. At all times, they would only say open or close or ATM only.
Okay. Do you think you can get do you work for the bank, or are you
No, I work for Navy Federal. I represent the owner, yes, sir.
do you think that going from an illuminated rear sign to a face lit sign would something you could sell to your superiors,
For which particular sign are you?
all of them?
When you say facelit, are you meaning that they would be, can Can you just further
Well,
explain?
for example, if you go down, what you're looking for is that if you have a sign that's lit from the rear, and listen, I'm putting a sign on my building, I got it. But the truth is, when you have those backlit signs, I understand from a marketing standpoint, you want that sign to be as visible as far away as you can, so there's absolutely no deniability as to what that building is, and I get that. What the city is trying to do, from what I can garner from my own, is a little bit of a softer approach to seeing it, that it's still visible, but it's not like a deer staring into headlights of cars. I mean, you know, I've seen a lot of signs in my life that, you know, when I go by them, they're so bright that they really take away your visibility, you know, because you look at whatever's in front of you driving down the road and you have a real bright sign, and all of a sudden your eyes go to the sign versus what you understand what I'm trying to get?
Yeah, I do.
I'm trying to get to where I think we're trying as a board to, A, comply with the sign ordinance that we have, B, be community oriented in with the businesses that come to our business, because the idea behind it is we want the citizens that you're trying to reach, we want them to understand what you got, and we want to understand where to go, understanding the lane closures and the ATM. I get all that. I mean, that's fine, you know, but if illuminated rear signs is what we're trying to get away from, for us just to agree and approve on a rear illuminated sign based on the fact that there are other ones that are on Windward, we shouldn't, you know.
I mean, I don't think that's the only argument to be made. I'm just more concerned with the lack of other Navy Federals in the area for members to know that we're there. I mean, because the way our building is positioned now, if there's not a sign on the side facing Windward or State Route 9, there's no way for somebody to identify that's a Navy Federal. It can be any bank, as far as I'm concerned, if you don't know that that's Navy Federal.
Have you already leased the building?
We own the building.
You own the building?
Yeah, and that's the other argument. We're going to be here for 40 years.
So,
That was our commitment to building a ground-up building and buying this piece of land. So this is not something where in 5 years we're going to be gone. Our commitment to this community is to be here long-term.
no, but you made a decision based upon the existing sign ordinance, that it was a good location.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You got a comment, Bob?
Yeah, just, the two signs that is permitted would face the two street frontages. The third sign faces the driveway that
The Walmart
goes
side.
in
Walmart, yeah,
into the Walmart.
right.
And that's where the monument sign would be located.
It's on the Walmart
It's on the
side?
It's on
The monument sign is going to be on the Windward Parkway side.
on the Windward Parkway. So this is just a wayfinding sign?
What page are you looking at?
This here,
That's the one that's on.
this is the monument sign?
right in front of the Windward Parkway.
Okay. So that would be on the, well, I guess what I'm saying is you could have the two signs that still face the major thoroughfares. The third sign is really an additional sign, which he's asking for relief on, because that's just facing the driveway. And the drive-throughs through the bank, I mean, we could just put a small little red and green kind of a light in there that would indicate, almost like, you know, you're going through a toll road, you know, you kind of know right away if it's open or closed.
Well,
I mean, once you put a sign there that says open or closed,
I mean, that's the main interest of the building facing Walmart.
What was this before?
It's a brand new.
It's a brand new
Brand new
building.
building.
Yes, sir. It was just raw land, yes, sir.
Yeah, brand new.
Well, you know, Bob, the internal sign over by the Walmart, because I drive through there every day.
you know,
You know, I understand the need for some small signage on the internal component on the Walmart side, because that's a busy traffic intersection through there, so I think it would be good for the public to be able to see exactly how to get into your place of business. And personally, as long as the signs themselves, in terms of the drive-throughs, have very specific language as to be that the only thing displayed is open, closed, and ATM, I don't know that I have a real big problem with that personally.
Yeah, I give you our assurances, sir. That's all it will have.
As far as internally illuminated or face illuminated, whatever the ordinance says that we should do is what we should do. I think if we concede on the other things, then that needs to be a concession on y'all's part. That's my own personal opinion.
Yeah, I'm still not bought on the LED.
I think that we can, I don't think we're opening ourselves up if we restrict what can be put in an LED sign.
Yeah, because the sign that they're putting up there for the LED portion of it is a canned product. It is a banking product that they can put up. I mean, I've seen them on the other ones, and they're not real obtrusive.
Well, so, but what are the other,
I'm sorry.
what are the other institutions doing?
I can honestly tell you I don't know because I don't pay attention to it, and I very seldom go through the drive-through, and I so very seldom ever go to an ATM.
That's a great question. There's a PNC Bank located
Right.
right in the same development as ours, and they have the same LED signs over their
do.
drive-through lanes right
Okay.
now.
Well, this
So
is
let's say it again, Marty, what you said, the drive-throughs would be lit, but the ones
they're
on-
basically a directional purpose.
Yeah,
mean,
and I
that
agree.
Specific.
Yeah.
So
But you
if
can't-
they only say the two things, then
Yeah.
they're not real obtrusive.
Right.
So the bigger question, and having signage on Windward, having signage on 9, having a small signage on, at the corner there for your entrance, at that Walmart 4 intersection where, I guess it's Arby's and A&W and Chase and all that is, right?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the side.
I get that, because there's a lot of intersection, and I see people go there all the time deciding which way they need to go. So, for public good, I think that's fine, but I just want to see us to make sure that the signage that we do put up is a little bit softer but visible. And I think that Steve is right, and, you know, I've never really paid a lot of attention to backlit versus face, but when I have seen it, I understand what he's talking about.
So with that being said, will we be allowed to have a sign on the actual building?
Based on whatever the sign ordinance would be.
Because the ordinance says you can have 2 signs, and that's our main entrance.
And you're asking for 2 additional signs.
For
No,
one,
they're-
one additional.
One additional.
They're asking for one additional
I-
main wall sign.
Yeah, being on the corner, I agree with you. I mean, you gotta, you're either coming north, south, east, west. I mean, I agree that you've got a lot of different ways that someone would
Thank
need to
you.
know that you're there. And the way you've got it is, I think, probably prudent.
I mean, we try to place the building 9,000 different ways
Right.
to maximize visibility without having to ask for an exception here today, and I apologize to put you guys in that situation, but we feel very adamant that this will be in the best, interest for Navy Federal if consideration can be made today.
Yeah, I think from just a traffic standpoint, accident standpoint, it probably makes sense for that third sign.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
And all we're really
And-
talking about is an internal component sign
Yeah,
based
and
on
you're
the
in-
internal components of the shopping area itself. And so I don't have any problems with that.
Right. And your internal directionals, I mean, certainly you gotta tell everybody how to.
Yeah, and they're not illuminated, they're just,
Right.
they're just directional signs, just letting
I think
people-
it's the illumination, guys, that kind of hung up on.
Just on the monument sign?
No, on all of them.
Okay.
Well, they are allowed to have internally illuminated
On the
wall
building?
signs.
On the building?
Whatever the ordinance says they can do is what they can do.
Right.
And we can't stop them from doing something that is
Okay.
based
Right.
on what the sign ordinance
It's
is.
already there.
So, in light of that, I'm willing to say, okay, fine with everything, what we're just trying to get to is, obviously you've had for 1, 2, 3 things to be added to it. And we're basically just giving you our thoughts, and having face-lit signs is nicer than illuminated, but whatever you can do is what we are gonna do. And I think we all agree on the internal component sign. Are we now in agreement on the drive-through signage?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
so we've covered that. To allow the 4 non-monument ground signs or directional signs, basically, lead you through to where the ATMs are and
Yes,
drive-through
sir.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think we're good. I think that,
In other words, just to recap, it would be all the signs are externally illuminated.
All
For the
over.
ground
With the
sign
ex-
on
Except for the
Windward.
directional signs.
Other than the directional signs.
Other than the directional signs.
And the ground sign that on highway on Windward.
The monument sign.
This one right here.
You
The
know,
monument sign.
Yeah, the
That's
monument sign.
external.
not that
That's
I'm trying to
external.
complicate this, Bob,
Yes.
based on the elevation, this building is set down probably 6 feet below grade at the stoplight. Is that about right?
Yeah, I think,
Farther than that.
yeah.
Is it further?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
I
maybe
haven't driven over there.
10
but-
feet.
So let's say it's 6 to 8 feet, whatever it is. Would, if we did a face lit sign, would the lighting itself cause a problem at the intersection? Do you understand what I'm asking?
If you shine it
Yeah.
up, it would,
Right.
yeah.
Well, but have you ever been by one of these signs when they didn't shine them in the right direction?
Yeah, the LED that we use is not an LED that's going to blind you by looking at it. It's just an LED that if you're looking at the building, it'll stand out to you. We've been using these LEDs around the country now since 2007, and we haven't had any reported concerns
Okay.
or issues with different jurisdictions.
He's talking about
The building signs, correct? Yeah, that's what I was referring to.
okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, I think we've shot this horse.
It's still subject to BZA for Board of
Yeah.
Appeals.
On the 20th, right?
But, so, do you need to make any sort of motion, or just?
It's just a review, so
The
I think that we've,
recommendation is to do a face lit
On the-
Externally illuminated ground sign.
external
Correct.
illuminated ground sign. Is that right, Steve?
Yeah,
Is that the
Okay, I
consensus?
just wanna make sure.
on the monument.
Yep.
Yeah, and we're okay with that. I mean, Angela mentioned, based off the ordinance, we can do uplighting there, so that's no problem.
okay.
Yeah, no problem at all.
I'm glad we can have a meeting of the minds.
Yes, definitely. Life's about
Enjoy
compromise.
and finance a lot of cars.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you, everybody, for your time today. Very much appreciated.
Thank you.
May I just ask one last question? When we come back on the 20th for the actual variance hearing itself, will the feedback given today be considered for that recommendation for that meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
It will, I'll put these comments in my staff report that the BZA will receive.
okay. Outstanding.
You can use it in your presentation too, that you,
Yeah.
went before the, you know, the DRB and these are the recommendations.
Okay, outstanding.
Just remind me in a day or two to email it to you.
Okay. All right, sounds great. Thank you, everybody.
You know, my questions on this floodplain house are, that's really not our thing anyway. Okay. I will murder this name, so, 14225 Birmingham Highway, and I don't want to offend you by not saying your name correctly.
It's Adnan Sheikh.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you. Good evening. And I live in Austell, 1425 Austell Road.
I've been there. I built houses in Austell once,
Oh, okay. Well, I'm really, really close to the hospital, right on the east-west connection.
right there, at what used to be Cobb General.
Yes, absolutely. It's my wife.
Hello. I want to start off by telling you that some of us, not me, but some of us have seen this lot before. Okay? You know, this is just basically a courtesy review. And some of the questions that we have are, yeah, well, because it's such a narrow lot, so close to the road, and there are certain things that we're not going to really be able to address based on design, which is like the stream buffers and, you know, the setbacks that we have, you know, we have them there for a reason. This is a challenging lot at best. And short of us just telling you that it's not within the setback, it wouldn't be within the setbacks and the stream buffers, those things. Do you own this lot?
No, not yet.
Okay. you need to think very clearly
Is
about,
the owner here?
Yes.
He is?
Well, we are the proposed owner, actually.
Is the owner here?
Yes, we are.
you
No,
did,
do you own the lot?
No, no, not yet.
Is the owner of this lot here?
No.
okay. I know that you've put some time into this. This is obviously gonna be a really nice house. And it's just I live not far from you. It is a tough lot.
It is.
And from our perspective, what we can say is it doesn't meet the requirements of the setbacks. Is this the one that's going into the 100-year floodplain, the house itself?
Yes.
It is?
Yeah.
I want to tell you that I built houses for a long time. I have seen a 500-year flood that we say never will happen.
There's one that happened 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
I have seen a 100-year floodplain that they say would not happen. And as a person, I can, as a committee, we can just say it doesn't meet the setbacks and it doesn't meet, it doesn't meet those requirements that are part of our code that we have for the city. And I would just ask you to think more about this lot and putting such a nice house on something, because you realize that you're not going to be able to, it's going to be difficult to insure it.
No, I didn't have that.
Did you know that if you buy a house that's in the floodplain, that it's more money to insure it every year? And the requirements are significant. And, as anybody that sits on these boards or anybody that works here as a city like this, the architect, we all care what happens to the citizens. And not that the ownership of this lot, not that we're trying to condemn this guy's lot, but the reason you have those setbacks and the reason you have the floodplain is so that people are on notice, so they know where they can put a structure and where they can't. And this is a tough lot, and it's gonna be a lot of money for you to put a house there, and it's gonna be a lot of work for you to do it if the city were to approve the lot. When I built, and I've worked in the city of Marietta, I was asked one time, what do you really get when you buy something? And it's called quiet enjoyment. And so your municipality, this municipality, has to protect your right to quiet enjoyment. That's what we do, what a city does, or a municipality. And that's why this is here, and those floodplains, they're there to protect you. And for me purposefully, I would be not of good conscience to tell you that I think you should build on that lot based on those setbacks in that floodplain. And
Is this, I don't see the floodplain. I know there's a buffer, I know this is a creek with buffers, but Marty, is there somewhere on here
It's
that
not
I'm
on floodplain. I guess my engineer is with, along with me, and he's saying it's not on floodplain.
The yellow line is?
we're talking about the 100
Okay.
year and the 500 years.
I got it, yeah, 100 year,
You can see it says 100 years.
okay. This hard line right here?
Yes, sir. That's what it's showing. Virtually the entire house is
Right, yeah.
as shown.
I've never seen a floodplain cross contour lines like this. It's
That's what's
odd.
showing.
That what a lot of people don't understand about the folks that draw these floodplains, in the old days, they took a magic marker and went down the line where they had gotten their elevations. And you could be 3, 5 feet, 6 feet variance between them. And what they're really talking about here is the stream buffers. Have you got it as a matter of absolute fact, Bob, that line represents the 100-year and 500-year?
No, I'm going just by what's on this one.
This is on the map, and this is the plat.
But does the stream buffer really represent, quote unquote, the floodplain?
Well, I'm assuming it's correct. I mean, it's done by LCE Engineering.
Marty,
I mean,
Yeah.
they have to
right here,
adequately
right here,
show the lines.
Yeah, it is.
right here. That's the
There it is right there.
Yeah, it's real.
The engineer, the engineer.
Answer questions.
Okay. The floodplain's right behind the
It's
house.
an approximate, it's an
Okay.
unstudied zone X.
Yeah.
That means they've done no studies on it.
Right.
We did the Triple Crown development just upstream of it, comes straight out of the dam, that's the detention pond for Triple Crown. It
Okay.
comes on into here, and it's an unstudied, and that line came straight off the FEMA maps.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah,
you got
yeah.
this, you got
It's-
this
it's-
hard line here, and
Yeah.
it's going, I mean, I see this flood zone climbing about 12 feet.
That's all it is, it's straight off the flood maps
Okay.
as the zone, as a zone X, which is not studied.
Right.
So you can
So in order to get it right, you'd have to do hydrology on the creek
You're
and,
exactly
Yeah.
correct, and the new maps coming out, we'll probably have it rectified.
you know, I'm not trying to condemn the lot as much as I am trying to make sure somebody understands.
Yeah, the floodplain really on this one is not really the issue. The house is gonna be 3 feet above it as everything else. So the flooding from the house is really not the issue. The issue is just, it's chewed up with the stream buffers,
Yep.
and that's all.
Is this your lot?
No, it's not. SunTrust actually owns it, and they're trying to get rid of it. It's been through foreclosure a couple of times with, and they're trying to, you know, they've had it 5 years and they have to move the property, and this was trying to put a house on it, and the stream buffers have just chewed up the whole property. It's 4 acres, and there's 14% of the property built. You know, that's the tough part about it.
Well, you know, I get so worrisome about floodplains. I built a house in Pine Tree Country Club. When I built the house, it was not inside the dam breach. I went back to sell the house because they built Town Center Mall,
If it's unbuildable.
and my house was 3 inches, the basement floor became 3 inches inside the
It's
dam
not a
breach,
problem with the house.
and we ended up having to tear the house down.
Yeah. So it's the floodplain part of it is not gonna be the issue with this, because we're gonna be 3 feet above it, no matter when we finish the study with it. If FEMA's on the updated maps don't come out with the detailed stuff, the community development's gonna require us to do a study coming out to them, establish what the floodplain is anyway.
Are you the builder?
No, I'm the engineer.
Engineer?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't fill out the card, I just wanted.
Okay. So basically, what would be the appropriate step for him, other than the fact that the setbacks are an issue for us?
I mean, that's what it's here for. I mean, this essentially the only way, and trying to stay as far away as from the creek as itself. In
Right.
front, and that's why the 40-foot setback in the front is trying to move up, push the house up and away from all that stuff, and leave everything else alone. The other problem with it is everything from the house downstream is poor septics. He has a very limited septic area he has to deal with. And we've done soil studies out there and the perk test, and we have a septic field that can support the house. And it's very limited. You can't do anything to it. You can't cross the creek. So everything in the back that backs up the Triple Crown is just, you know, it's just,
How big is that stream?
Is
in
this
terms
the
of
stream that feeds the pond
Is it?
in Triple?
yeah.
It is?
This is the one that comes out of the lake.
It comes out of
Yeah.
it.
So,
Yeah, so the creek actually originates on Triple Crown.
So it's a pretty good sized creek.
That's- yeah,
This creek feeds that
yeah,
pond?
it's not big. It originates on, it doesn't flow, it originates on Triple Crown.
so I mean, I may be a really stupid for asking this question. If this is downstream from Triple Crown's small lake,
Dam breach?
yeah,
I mean, you could go and do that and then go ahead and have one done it. But what happens on these small dams, when you do the dam breach, the 100-year floodplain is actually big because the lake drains itself before the whole breach opens up. And your 100-year floodplain is actually your controlling factor on these little small lakes like in Triple Crown. It's not like the whole dam on a breach
It's
opens
slow,
up and
it's
the whole
slow
thing-
breach.
Yeah, it's just, it's a very slow,
Right.
it just drains itself before it breaches out. So that's why the 100 years are generally the most. And, you know, and we have, I mean, we have to follow follow all the rules when it comes into doing that stuff. And he won't be, you know, the community development's not gonna let him put something into it that's gonna not be less than 3 feet above the 100-year. And that's just what y'all's ordinance say, and that's what you have to go with.
Well, I would suggest that we follow the ordinance.
Yeah, and this right here, we would basically set up, we would be following the ordinance except for asking for the front yard setback along Birmingham to push it a little bit farther forward to pull it away from mainly out of the 25-foot stream buffer. You know, that's not being impacted, it's basically the city's stream buffer and the impervious setback. And we have ability to buffer average it in the back, but that's more of a semantic thing because everything in the back side of this thing is going to be, you're not going to have much access to it at all. And that's what backs up the ground. It's just going to be from the creek over, it's just going to be there, like it is now.
Well, is the house being proposed with a lower level?
But the basement has to come up above the 100-year too. I mean, everything has to be 3 feet above but
The whole house will be elevated up high, plus it's closer to the street.
Now, what's the size of the storm, of the drain pipe that you gotta go over the creek with to have your driveway?
well, on this one, there's none. We're coming in out of the same entrance.
Okay,
There's an existing house on there. It's
Okay.
coming out of, using the same driveway. That's driveway location, everything else that's all the way up on Birmingham. So the location of that is we were trying to hold it so nothing changes, just pushing it. The only reason for the change of the setback is just to get it as far forward so it doesn't impact any of the state stream buffer issues and just dealing with the city issues.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, can we just ask, they also show a pool and whatnot and accessories in the back and decks, and I think if they're looking for any sort of a leniency on the front setback, I mean, to add the pool in the back, and it's just, that's all intruding on the city's setback requirements, the stream buffer as well. It's not just the house here, it's the accessory structures as well. I just want to make sure everybody looks at.
Well,
let's try to put a lot of stuff on a little
But,
spot.
you know,
What's
you
the-
come in for stuff, those things are the accessory buildings and stuff, you know, that's, that's what we like to do, but that's, you know, it's not a major component to the whole deal. The deal is just trying to be able to get the house in there on the front side. You know, you'd like to have a greenhouse or something in the back because it's out of the way. And, it'd be nice to walk back there, but if it's a thorn in the side or something, that's not an issue to have it removed.
Well, anybody else have any questions? Thoughts?
It's a tough lot.
Would you like to say something? Would you like to say something to us?
No, I would just wanted to be a part of your community and have my kids go to Milton High School. Really. That's all.
Can I tell you something? We would love to have you as part of our community, and
And one thing I know is this creek is less than a quarter of a mile long from that lake to, I guess it's Chicken Creek or something that goes by the soccer field. We have a soccer field right next door to it. So, I mean, it is, and you can literally, my wife just could literally jump off that creek and it is not even 2 feet wide.
right, oh, I know.
So,
I mean, I think the thing that scares me and the reason that I worry so much is I built a really nice home for a personal family friend, close like this is, only to discover that, unfortunately for us, Cobb County allowed the mall to be built, and they changed the culverts, which changed the dam breach eventually, and ultimately it ended up in my friend being involved in a nasty lawsuit for 10 years with the county, with Cobb, and Cobb ended up tearing down my beautiful house that I built because it ultimately ended up in the dam breach. And so the thing that I would say is that I think that whatever you do, a hydrology study needs to be done. It needs,
That's gonna be a given on this. They're gonna require
You know, and-
Good thing about this is Triple Crown's built out. There's
Right.
nothing else, there's nothing else around it.
And so what I guess I'm trying to say to you is that you'd have to do a hydrology study. Then you would have to come with a really good quality landscape plan that would mediate the closeness in the setback. If at all, we could approve that. But the truth is, what we want in our municipality is we have these rules to try to keep it, you know, nice like it is. You know, and it's not so much that this lot, whether we'll permit the setbacks to be infringed on or not, it's about everybody coming up with, the next person coming up and saying, well, you approved that lot, so these were the mitigating circumstances for which you approved it, so why can't you approve mine? And,
I mean, if other jurisdictions have started to do the buffer averaging deal where you expand it in other areas so that you try to preserve the same square footage of buffer that you have.
right,
And this could be done on this one, I believe, with not too much, actually no problem. And then that's the buffer, and then it's the impervious setback, which is a outside of that, which it moves around too. But if, in hearing y'all and understanding, given a justification or a reason to do it for allowing here, encroach here, you expand the buffer somewhere else, so we don't have a net loss of the buffer square footage. On this particular place, it'd be an easy thing to do.
okay. Bob, what do you think about that?
Other municipalities are implementing that as a way to, resolve some of their setbacks. They don't want to just give away the setback and grant it. They want to get something back to ensure that the intent of that setback is still there. So that's the way they're meeting that intent.
Okay. I think from me to you is, I just want to make sure that you know exactly what you're getting yourself into and exactly what you're buying and exactly how you're going to build it, so that we can find a way to accommodate you so you can be a part of our community on this lot. But I would tell you that we'd love to have you a part of our community and
Appreciate it, thank you, and I think I got really good engineers here.
All right, and forward, because this is just a cursory review meeting, to come back on this stuff, what would you encourage us to show to bring it before it comes back up?
I think for me, it would be proving that he's actually building somewhere that it is going to meet the requirements for him not to be in the floodplain.
How this is a DRB meeting and
I know.
not an engineering stuff, so, I mean, I can do it, I can put it up here, but, we're gonna get down in the weeds for outside of the DRB, I believe. What would make you feel, or y'all feel more comfortable that I can show y'all that can go through with the DRB on that?
How does the rest of the board feel
Have a
about that?
landscape plan for one. Go through the DRB? Or?
Well, what he's saying is that what we're really talking about is more of a building permit engineering
Right.
issue than it is a design issue. And so our podium may not be that we can talk about so much the floodplain and what he needs to do to come through our board for the floodplain, because that ultimately will come up somewhere else. So I think that from our perspective, it would be a quality landscape plan of how this is going to look.
And the elevation of the house,
Yeah.
Would it be prudent for me to go ahead and do a floodplain study myself and show that line work on the map, on this drawing, so that y'all can see what the true floodplain would be instead of this fictitious pass off floodplain?
Right. As you've already so eloquently said, it's outside our purview to tell you that you need to do a hydrology study or any of those things. And the only reason I brought it up was because I care about the guy that's going to buy that lot and his family and how it's going to impact him before he gets so deep. And I know that a hydrology study is going to cost $2,500 to $3,500, I would suspect.
That's
I'll just,
cost of building that house.
I'll just add, you're not gonna be coming back before the design review board, but if you can give me a site plan that shows the exact floodplain, that will help when it comes to write, I have to write a staff
I
report.
heard that y'all were gonna be, that I'll get that on there before.
Yeah, so, you know, the more information you can give me,
Yeah.
the more I can give the BZA.
I have
The bank don't care.
I have a question about the right-of-way. We've got it, you know, what looks like, you know, I don't know, 100 foot? Is that 100 foot right-of-way?
60 foot up there.
Up here?
Yeah, on Birmingham,
60 foot?
60 foot work.
Okay, and then what is the right-of-way here?
It was 60 foot all the way.
Yeah, just see, it looks in the map that it's kind of widened up, but it does not widen up. It's just a bridge over there, I guess.
They've, well, the research that we had, where it was applied to do this, only showed it as a 60 foot. If there was right of way taken since that, I don't have that, and the bank has not supplied that to us, so I don't know.
Okay, I'm just looking at your hard lines here, which I'm
That was,
assuming.
that was done off of the survey was done by Wilson Long back in 2007 for Triple Crown.
Okay.
And that's where it came from.
Okay, well, I'm just
Yeah.
looking at I'm assuming that your hard lines are your right of way.
Yeah.
Okay, so from here to here, 60, did you say?
That's what he had shown on that, but the means and bounds came straight from the survey.
Okay, and then from
Yeah.
here to here
Yeah.
is what?
He showed it as 60 all the way through there.
Well, I don't have a scale on me,
but I
but
know,
I'm looking here and I'm going, this is wider than here.
That down there, you know, that's what he.
I mean, I don't, so I'm wondering, you know, is there a possibility that this could be an expanded right-of-way? This is a DOT road, right?
It could have been, but the meets and bounds on that was from his survey. I mean, it didn't.
I
It shows it going around, it shows it going around.
Oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
I'm with you, that the meets and bounds showed that, but however, and then down here, there's another,
I'm sure it's probably 60 foot varies.
I mean, there's another, I guess, right of way, I don't know, I mean, this is kind of a wacky,
The whole thing's wacky because of the movement around on the bridge down there.
okay, all right, so, I'm just, you know, there's a different right of way here, so.
I'm sure it probably is doing some varying in there. I'm
So,
with you.
Was there a possibility that this could be consistent and some right-of-way taking here?
I'm sure it may have happened in the past, and Wilson showed it on his survey as already being taken. And
Well, I mean a consistent all the way down. I'm guessing this goes all the way down to Providence Road. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of looking at it, and you know, I've looked at a lot of land in my past, and I don't know if I've ever seen one like this. And due diligence, this would probably be gone a long time ago.
Yeah, I got the survey from him, it was for Triple Crown, I was working with folks at Triple Crown, and all of that, and it was 2000 maybe 2003, but it was done after the bridge was widened, so I would assume that Wilson had the info to do the.
Just going down the road and to look at the property several times, the road does not change, the depth and length of the road exactly the same.
No. I'm sure that the road width is the same. It's the right of way that may vary.
It's the right of way
Yeah,
through that.
it does not change either.
Well, your plan shows that it changes.
I don't think there's any additional right of way that's sitting out there.
Okay.
As of right now, I don't know of any additional right of way that's sitting out there, and I know the bridge was done before his survey was done, so I don't.
You think it just fans out because of the bridge?
Yeah. Because that was kind of widened to the opposite side of the bridge when they widened the road away from the.
There's no other lots in Milton, that Milton High School district that you could pick except for this one.
Hey, not going for density here, but.
Just a couple of comments. The house would be a two-story structure? Okay, and right now, your driveway comes in and you drive through the house and the pad for the garage is in the rear?
You drive,
How do you access the garage?
the garage, as you come, the driveway comes down the front of the house, goes into a motor court area. The actual garage is towards the top end of the page.
Show us where this is the driveway.
That's the drive.
There's only one question.
And then so the garage
What is the
doors
closest
in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the garage doors face the back of the property, not the front. So you drive through the.
So you drive through
go
there,
through the
come
house,
around.
Like through a
Like a
motor
motor
court,
court.
then you go in the back in the garage. I just
Got
wanna
it.
make sure everybody's
Yeah,
aware of what it
and
is.
one of the things that we've done on here that, you know, requested us to do, we had to deal with some of the water quality stuff, which is for the intrusion into the impervious setback and stuff, which we've got that handled, handles the first one inch of rainfall, 1.2 inches of rainfall that we have to infiltrate, which mitigates the impervious setback
Which is
issue.
the dry wells.
Which is the dry wells and stuff like that. So we're doing items to try to compensate for getting into that area as much as we can. Or as much we got proposed right now, and, you know, whatever's required after that, we'll deal with.
And Marty, can I just add that being that we're gonna reduce the setback architectural from 60 to 40, it brings the house much closer to Birmingham.
What is the narrowest point between the house and the Birmingham right-of-way? How far is it?
It's, that
40
actual
feet.
physical house,
Yeah.
it's gonna be it'll probably be 41 feet.
Wow.
And-
I mean, I'm pushing, well, you know, that's right now with the house style right now, when the full final dimensions of the footprint come in, then obviously we're gonna wanna push it as far away from the road as possible and stay within the limits, but still push it far enough away from the road, because being not, you know, just to improve the situation.
But just putting the floodplain and all of those issues aside for a moment, when we bring a house closer to the road, again, you know, I'd like to suggest maybe a porch, 8 feet, even if it encroaches a little bit into that setback, 40-foot setback, it does soften the house from the roadway. So when you're driving down, it gives it a much more country-like feel.
Instead of just a vertical wall.
Instead of just a vertical
Right there.
wall, so it will, even though they're very close, a lot of old farmhouses used to be right on the roadways, but they all had those big porches.
They did.
And everybody likes it.
Are you planning on planting
A lot of landscape.
a lot of landscaping between you and Birmingham?
I don't see where that could be. You've got a driveway, and then you've got your septic tank and your field, so.
You're never gonna be able to get a lot of.
And here, you may have a little bit in the front of your garage, but that's
You know,
about it.
you compensate that with some fencing, you do something to do a break up into it.
If I could suggest, I'd rather see us say that we know if it gets approved through the Board of Appeals, and they say, okay for these setbacks, could we put something on the front facade, like a nice big porch, 8 feet deep, that would give it at least that character, that would make it look like it's been there, and it softens up the roadway, so as people are driving by, we don't see that vertical wall. Nothing harsh, it looks very country-like and has a small town feel to it. It is on Birmingham, and it's a very visible right-of-way.
Yeah.
It's one of our major
It is.
right-of-ways. So I'd like to, I know the architecture doesn't always come back as a single-family home, but, I mean, it might be nice to say that to the variance board that we would like to see architecture that looks much more country-like and with a porch and, the elements that make it look softer, because it's approaching and encroaching so much closer to the roadway.
That'd be kind of like the houses up in, the one north of there, or Cara. The ones on the right, that they built up, that Triple Crown built up, those type houses, they have porches on the front. And that type of stuff, which is still staying in character with the Triple Crown stuff and everything else.
I
It might be things like, clapboard rather than harsh
Yeah.
brick, and, just the softer elements.
I'm just, and believe me, I want to get along with anybody who wants to build, but I'm just going to make an overall statement. If this is approved, then what wouldn't be approved?
That's correct. That is correct.
I mean, this has a front yard setback, it has an impervious setback, variance, it has a stream buffer variance. If this is approved,
I know.
then, it's basically,
You know,
Yeah, it'd be
I know-
approved
you want.
with the buffer average.
What's that?
It'd be approved with all the buffer averaging and something, so there is a moving around, you're not like giving up a decreasing of the buffers out there, you still.
Right.
We have enough room out here, let's say let's put it into a buffer averaging, we give you 125% more, or something, we have the ability to do this stuff. And from doing that, you can show everybody knows they're in a tough spot, and you can move forward.
I think other municipalities do buffer averaging, that's the way they handle it. I would have to check with Jimmy to see if he approves it, Jimmy Sanders, to see if that's the way he does it in Milton.
buffer averaging.
Probably hasn't run into this.
You know, obviously, I mean,
We've
it
never
comes,
done it before. I'd have to double check.
I understand.
Right.
I mean, I get it.
Does
My concerns for your client, I guess it's your client. You know, my concern is, I'm sitting here running through my head and I'm going, I live on Freemanville. I live, what is my house, 160 feet off the road, 200 feet off the road? It's 200 feet off the road and my road's not as busy as that road. And then you've got the creek issues, you got all these different issues, and as long as he understands it and we can come to an agreement with the city that would allow it to be built, then a design part of it is something we can address when the time comes to actually have a structure and a landscape plan that shows how it's gonna all work. The fact is, we can see a plot on the house.
Yeah.
Is that something that would come back to this board?
No, it won't.
It
You
would
won't
be a
see
single
this again.
family. So what I'm suggesting is if in the event, you can all say that you don't think it's a suitable site, that's one thing. But in the event it did get approved, possibly your suggestions would be to make the house look more, maybe historic would be a good word, that it's got certain elements, porches and shutters and clapboard siding and, true divided light windows and elements that would, at least if it's encroaching and for some reason it does get through.
Well, I thought it, well.
Could we make an agreement to come back
I
for it?
thought we were now with the new form code that those were coming back.
This isn't in one of the form-based code areas.
It's still not, they haven't done that
So
yet.
I don't know,
Volunteer to bring it back for it.
could they put in?
I think he could volunteer that here's what I think. I think he can remove his request for us to review this property at this point so that you can come back at a future point.
Well, we can't.
You can't? Okay.
It's two different things. You're reviewing right now the variance. You're commenting on the variance in itself, and Bob is saying, well, the engineer is saying he's willing to bring the house back itself when he comes in to apply for a building permit,
That's
if and
not
when
what
it gets there.
Well, then-
Typically, single-family houses are not brought before the design review
Right.
board.
Well,
Maybe
then-
this
then
one
if-
should be though.
And just to add
Yeah,
that,
maybe this one
Jimmy
should be.
Sanders, Mr. Jimmy Sanders, I've looked through these plans already, I've shown it to him, had a meeting with him, and he went through them.
I'd have to check.
I will-
Yeah, of course,
don't know.
definitely, yeah.
I'm just saying that if it
What was his
does
thoughts?
go
What
through,
were-
it's either we
He was-
condition.
He said as long as you can get his main thought was the study we did, the stormwater study, and we added those dry pit wells, I guess.
Just
to
water
it.
quality stuff. He wanted the water quality stuff on there.
Yes.
All the BMPs.
The
Yes.
BMPs,
Yes.
obviously,
He wanted,
we're
yes.
going to do the floodplain stuff.
Yes, yes, and he said yes.
And,
My only thought, as long as he understands what he's getting himself into as a property owner.
yeah, you understand
but
what you're
I
getting yourself
would-
into.
Yeah, as long as these,
I
that's
think-
it, James,
If we're just
it
doing the
doesn't come back in
variance,
front of the board,
my
could we at
feeling is
least
I'm not so
put
comfortable with
recommendations
that.
for the
That's just too close.
zoning
Not all-
appeals
I
board
think
to
you're
put
right, there could be
conditions
all the way there.
on the type of architecture, that if in the event it went through, what kind of house?
They're gonna expand this road. Come on.
What I don't think, I think
Or
what the
would
real,
it just come back?
here's what the basic thing really comes down to, I think, Laura, is we can't say that we approve or disapprove based on whether or not the city will allow the averaging of these setbacks.
Well, true.
We don't know that. And so we would have to be instructed as to whether that's the direction this, because the only way to really say we agree to these conditions is if in fact they agree, the city staff agrees to averaging. Is that right?
But
Am I saying it right?
Right now, I believe what's in front of the board is a front yard setback reduction.
Right,
So we
and
could
here's,
say to the variance board, we would be okay with a front yard setback from 60 to 40 if certain conditions are met on the architectural style of the dwelling.
well, I don't know about that personally. I mean, Steve and I were just, you know, I'm not clear that there's not a future right of way here. I mean, this looks, I mean, it looks a little wacky. I mean, so, and I gotta tell you, you know, a lot of these major thoroughfares, there are future right of ways, like Highway 9, like others. I mean, they're gonna widen them. I'm just saying that's really close, and then that isn't really consistent with how the Birmingham area looks. You know, I'm just trying to be realistic here. You know, I don't want to tell anybody not to build, but I got to look at what precedence is, and I got to look at it from that perspective, and the way that looks, and with the potential that there could be some sort of right-of-way, I think it's problematic. That's just my opinion. Okay, that's just my opinion.
That's a good one.
You know, the buffer averaging, yeah. I mean, I think that's interesting. It's great, but it doesn't solve to me the immediate problem that Steve brought up is if there is a future right of way, you just chopped off that whole front, and it is not consistent with the way homes are built in that area. That's
the dealing with that, and that's addressing your issue, is it's a state right of way.
yeah.
Right now, they have no plans, but that doesn't, you know, it's,
Yeah, I don't believe it.
you know, it would have to come through the city to start doing that, because they're gonna, if they do anything on 372 all the way up through there, it's gonna impact you all the way on up. As of right now, the DOT is not showing any interest, and we have not heard of anything coming out of them about doing any kind of widening, and I know there's no funding to do any
Well,
widening.
they have no cash.
Up through there for 10 years or more. So at what point would we know, because the way Fulton County used to do it, and to address the problems, when they go for a rezoning, you say reserve the right of way and you agree to do it, but there's not a rezoning here.
Yeah.
And this is the AG1 zoning, and the 40-foot setback is what would be a side corner setback in an AG1 zoning from, the 60 to 40 type stuff. So, yeah.
I understand what you're saying. And it just looks wacky. I mean, you got this widening of right of way and narrowing, and then all of a sudden widening at the south of your property here. So it's got three different widths of right of way on your plan. With a variance of 20 feet closer, even if there wasn't any future right of way on Birmingham Road, it's very close. I don't know if there's anybody here to talk about that. You'd have to post it for a variance, and I'm sure that would get some attention from somebody on Birmingham Road. I mean, it's kind of a horsey area.
Well, I mean,
But I mean, it's if it was 40 foot, but it's 40 foot, and it's stream buffer encroachments and all the kind of the mix, and that's kind of a hard one to kind of go, hey guys, we're all for you, and without it being something that we as have to sit up here and go, okay, when the next one comes up, you see what I'm saying? I'm just kind of.
well, I mean, we've got an example of one on Highway 9, and way before they ever said they were gonna, widen Highway 9, you've got a community, Lake Laurel right there, and they are gonna have to. I mean, there's a house literally. I don't know what they're gonna do, but there's gonna be some movement going on there. I can tell you that for a fact.
I know.
So.
And that's the shame on the stuff, because this is, when we gone through it, there's really no other way to do anything on this parcel. I mean, without variances. There's, I mean, you got a 5-acre piece of property and only 14% built. And that's 10 foot wide by, 300 foot long along the back edge of the stream buffer, And so it's really a you can't do anything with it without some kind of some variance. And knowing that, trying to do the best with a bad situation, and I think from the community's point of view, the buffering issue can be mitigated and improved to where stuff along the backside, there'll never be any development along the backside, which backs up the triple ground, which the folks back there would like, because it did have nothing into it. And he knows that you got a 40-foot setback on a state highway. I mean, take it, once the final house plans comes out, if it goes to 45 feet off, that's exactly where the house is going to go. It's going to be pushed back as far as it can, but I got to have luxury on the backside of the street buffer to be able to try to do that. If not, then there's no room to do anything.
Mr. Chair, could you help me? I need to get some comments to send to the BZA. So could I guess, break the request down and kind of informally poll the board to see who's in favor?
Okay.
Would you mind that? So the first part of the variance, to reduce the front setback to 60 to 40. Can I get, I guess, by maybe a show of hands of who would be in favor of that? Is that none?
So you want to walk through each one?
Yeah.
The variances?
Mm-hmm. I'm just going to throw out some questions, because I'll just say, the majority of the board was not in favor or was in favor, or
Okay.
I'll just do something general like that. I think that's no. Okay. Okay, and I'm going to take some of Bob's suggestions also. If the front setback was reduced to 40 feet, would you be in favor, or I guess, would you support conditions of the architecture, like the front porch and a more farmhouse feel, that sort of thing?
I think that would definitely be
Sure.
Yep.
what you have to do.
I would not.
Yes.
You would.
No, I would not, no.
Okay. Some more historic architecture. So the next request was to allow the house and courtyard to encroach into the 75-foot impervious setback and 50-foot stream buffer.
Subject to.
I would be more in favor of that than the front setback.
Okay.
And my thought would be based on whether or not the city allows the averaging.
Yeah.
I don't think we do that formally, but, it could be a condition that he replant, he does those calculations, and that he sets aside that amount of property somewhere else that's not currently buffer. We could make that a condition.
That
That
would have
makes
my
sense.
support if it
You
was.
mean widen up another area of the property?
Right, and just put that aside as a buffer. I mean, he's still
Yeah.
technically encroaching into the buffer. We would
Right.
just have them set aside that amount of property.
Right. He's
Sure.
not going into the 25-foot, which is
He has
state
to stay
buffer.
out of the state
Right.
buffer, because we
Right.
can't approve that.
Right.
Right.
And he is encroaching into, I've never been a big fan of this impervious area. It's a buffer on a buffer. I mean, it's like, how many buffers do you need?
It helps with drainage and all
Huh?
that. It helps with drainage.
I
and
know,
all that
but it's like a setback from a setback. We're gonna, but I would be in favor of that. major erosion control measures and landscaping would have to come all into play, and it's gonna be whoa.
I think already on your
Yeah,
plans,
challenge.
he's showing, I think I had them do calculations for the square footage of the encroachment and the stormwater runoff. So he's done those calculations, and I think he's showing mitigation for those. I forget what they were,
Yeah, their mitigation is the infiltrate
the,
wells.
the wells. So
Yeah.
he's showing that for the runoff. But you would be in favor of this encroachment if he did the additional set aside? Is that generally
Generally,
Yeah.
yeah.
what the board's thinking?
Yes.
Yes.
Is this, when you get down there, the creek, does it flatten out down there, or is
No, it's
it?
fairly, it's